All information given in this episode is for educational purposes and should not be tried prior to consulting a licensed physician and or certified state or accrediting bodies. We encourage all listeners to research, talk, and make all inquiries to all of the important professionals and governing bodies before acting on any information heard on the De La Fit podcast. Any action taken by any listener is done by and under their own omission and action, whether conscious to the results, positive or not.
To the De La Fit Podcasts, 360 degrees of holistic fitness and health, all in one podcast.
Welcome back to the De La Fit Podcast, and thank you for tuning in this week. This particular topic, I weighed in my head and I walked around and I even tried to practice an intro for it. But I just can't seem to get it right this week, everyone. So I'm just going to be flat out honest. I don't really know how to introduce this one. It is a sensitive topic amongst men. The topic is erectile dysfunction and low testosterone. I wanted to have this conversation and I wanted to have this topic because I feel most of us do not like talking about this. We don't like even broaching the subject of having some type of issue with our sexual organs. We don't even like to say the term sexual organ if it's not in the sexual intimate phase of our life. But it needs to be discussed. We need to start talking about our sexual health. We need to have a prominent discussion that is serious, but at the same time comfortable. Which is why we're going to do that here on this episode of the De La Fit Podcast. My guest is the creator of MyJunkDoesn'tWork.com. While the title might make you laugh, the information that he shares is quite serious. But prepare yourselves. His name is Orest the Old Guy. Now again, before you remark, exclaim, or laugh, or even turn the podcast off, I want you to stay tuned, sit down, be patient. He has some very potent and intriguing information to share with you as to why you may want to pay attention to your testosterone levels, why you may want to do some research and figure out what's going on with you if you are seeing signs of dissatisfaction in your sexual performance. So, we're going to jump right into this. Welcome to the De La Fit Podcast. Hey, you. With the earbuds in their ear. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? When I was trying to get my podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other places people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you can get paid to podcasts. I like to upload my episodes directly to the app and then promote. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast, make money doing it. Go to anchor.fm/start to join me in the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast.
You're now tuned in to the De La Fit Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the De La Fit Podcast. It is my honor, it is my esteemed pleasure to have actually back with us for the second time, Orest the Old Guy. And before I actually introduce him fully, I just want you all to know, don't be confused by his name. I had the pleasure to speak with this man, and he is nowhere near like his name. He is full of youth and energy. So prepare yourselves, because the topic we're going to be discussing is a very serious one, and he brings it. Introducing Orest the old guy. What's going on? How are you today, sir?
I am doing wonderful. And listen, I'm honored. I'm not sure who you were introducing. I don't think you were talking about me, but I'm honored that you thought that what we were talking about is important enough to record this again. And I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be here with you, son.
We're glad to have you back, man. Seriously, because you and I had this conversation before. There's some things, men, we just don't like to discuss. We just don't talk about. And this specific topic is very important. It's one that cannot be just bloused over. It is ED, better known as erectile dysfunction. I want you, first and foremost, to give your story as to how you began this journey, because you have created a wealth of information from your own journey. So let's take our listeners through this so that they can understand why it's so important.
Sure. I want to back up a little bit because if there's any women out here listening to this, they are also suffering with their man through this erectile dysfunction, and it affects them in ways that makes them wonder about things, and a lot of times the man does not want to talk about it even to his significant other, and so they're out there too. I know that in some of the Facebook groups I've been on and things like that cover this topic, that I would say about 40% of the comments are made by women.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah. It's not. The woman is affected in this also. So it's not just something that the guys treat by themselves because they're affected by this in significant ways. And some of it may be in the fact that women, outside of the physical intimacy and the emotional intimacy that's lost, some women start to wonder, well, is my man still attracted to me? Does he love me? They may wonder, is he having an affair? They may wonder, is he has he replaced me with porn? So all those things go through a woman's mind when she is with a man who suffers with erectile dysfunction. Worse yet, is he having an affair?
Right.
Those things run through a woman's mind when they're with a man who has erectile dysfunction.
Orest, I've had the pleasure of talking with you before, but I think that the first time we talked about it, but then we went directly to the information after that. How did your journey start into this subject? Because you're originally a periodontist, am I correct?
I was a dental regenerative surgeon, which is a periodontist. So we spend a lot of time using products that are regenerative to treat gum disease, and sometimes we replace teeth with dental implants. Sometimes we treat the teeth. So it varies. In a previous life, I was a periodontist.
Right.
And so familiar with lots of regenerative therapy. And so just for disclaimer, this is information only. I am not a physician. So I just want everybody out there to know that if they need to find very appropriate medical doctor to help them with this.
Correct.
So I just want to get that out there. So I got into the space. I've actually been in the anti-aging space myself, personally, for over 22 years. And
okay.
I think we talked about this is that I've been on testosterone optimization therapy for 22 years.
Right.
At age 45, my wife had our first daughter. I got married very late in life, and my waist and my age were the same, and my waist was outpacing my age. I was like 240 pounds, and I was the shape of a donut.
Right. I remember you were telling me that. Right.
Yeah. So in that regard, I had to make a decision at that point in my life about whether I was going to become I was going to be a granddad or I was going to be a father,
right?
An active participant. So I kind of made some very big changes in my life and my lifestyle and what I did. About several years ago, I had a prostate biopsy because everyone was pushing me to get it, and I've been resisting it for several years. And what happened was, in the course of that prostate biopsy, my prostate nerves got damaged, and it really affected my sexual function in a very, very significant way, like immediately.
Wow.
And so that, and then, the thing is that everybody tells you, oh, nothing's going to happen, and I've found, what I've heard is that, well, my story is not that uncommon. While it's not, I don't think it's the rule, but it's not uncommon. And so for years, I just kind of went through the whole process of, at first, trying the ED meds. And the challenge with the ED meds is that over time, they're not as effective as they used to be. So you start increasing your dosages, you start doing that. Also, the ED meds have like Viagra and Levitra, have a very narrow window of opportunity, which only is about a few hours, usually about 4 hours, somewhere in that range.
Right.
Cialis is longer. So those kind of things are all start to impact me. And so it became more and more of a challenge. Fortuitously, I had, through a friend, I ran across a doctor, and I actually was going in to get bicep tendon injury treated. Mm-hmm. And I started this doctor, and I started asking her, and she started telling me about these other therapies. And so what happened is I started investigating these and started taking a look at all these other therapies for erectile dysfunction. And quite frankly, there's a whole brand new world out there.
Right, because originally when this incident took place, you said they just said it couldn't be fixed or it couldn't be reversed. Am I correct?
No, it could never be reversed. No, there's nothing you can do.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what. Well, I can't remember all the stages of grief. First, there's anger, and there's 3 others in between. There's at the end, there's finally acceptance. And so
right.
I went through all of them.
I would imagine mine would be anger, and then more anger.
Yeah. Well, you can only be angry so long. You can be frustrated. The anger turns to frustration.
Right.
But it's a tough deal to do, and there's all sorts of other things that can happen to men that can really cause these problems. So it's an issue, and it's affected by a number of things. It can be their testosterone, it could be their general health, it could be diabetic, all sorts of stuff. It's multifaceted, and
right.
one thing, especially if men are young and there's a couple of reasons why young men might have ED, but younger men, and I'm starting to talk about like in the 30s, maybe early 40s. That quite often erectile dysfunction is a precursor to a heart event, like a heart attack.
Right. I remember you were telling me that. You were saying there's something to definitely pay attention to if you've seen some type of issues in that area.
It basically it's a flow of blood. That's what it's all about. It's a flow of blood, and if your blood flow is diminishing, especially at a younger age, and you start having ED problems, you may want to you may want to talk to your cardiologist along with another doctor. Or
let's go back a little. What exactly is low testosterone, and why is it underdiagnosed in most men?
Okay. Well, testosterone is going down in men generationally, and there's a study called the Normative Male Aging Study. It was done in Massachusetts, and it shows that it actually goes from the 80s all the way through to the beginning of the 2000s, and it shows that the averages for men are going down significantly in terms of total testosterone levels. And some of that has to do with the fact that there are, or I think a lot of it has to do with that, because they factor out some of the things like weight gain, things like that. But there's lots of compounds, what's called endocrine disrupting compounds, that are basically assaulting men and women in a different way. But they're assaulting men and causing them to put out less testosterone than their generations before. And this has to do with the plastics. It has to do with the hormones that are injected into a lot of the food, the preservatives. I mean,
right.
if it's good till 2025 in a can, it's probably not good for you.
Right. Basically, our total environment is changing. It's affecting our testosterone levels. Is what you're saying.
Yeah. It's called. I think you could probably pass that off as embalming fluid.
Wow. Wow. That's real right there. That's real right there, sir. Wow. Oh man. Now,
it's just that it's all the chemicals. So all of this is really affecting men. There's a term, and I actually totally disagree with it. I think that people talk about now they're talking about feminization of men.
Right.
And men aren't being feminized because, first of all, we all know that estrogen is a mighty powerful chemical.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
If you've been on the end of an estrogen storm, you understand that. At the same time, it's not so much that men are being feminized, is that they're losing their manhood and they're being turned into eunuchs.
Right. I remember you were saying that last time, right?
Yeah. So it's not that they're, women are pretty strong. Women are very strong.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're being feminized. It's just that they're losing their essence of their manhood. And that's a serious thing that's going on. There's another important is kind of a corollary to that. There's a study by the World Health Organization that went between 1973 and 2011, and it said that in the industrialized world, not in third world countries, but in the industrialized world, sperm counts in men are down by 50%.
Wow, that's a large number.
And there's a corollary. There's a follow-up to that. There was a study out of Hebrew University in Israel that said that if this trend continues at the pace it's continuing, that most men by 2050, 2060 will be infertile in the industrialized world.
Wow.
Yeah, that's like an amazing statistic, and it's something that a lot of people aren't talking about. You don't have to worry about global warming.
Right. That's a frightening fact right there that you're proposing or you're saying. I mean, you're basically. I mean, I'm just thinking of course I'm thinking of myself, but at the same time, just in general, that's changing the whole society in which we develop. How children are born and people interact. I mean, wow.
Yeah, I think I think that as it becomes more and more prevalent, I think that you'll see more and more people going to all sorts of different ways of conception.
Right. And wasn't that I'm sorry to cut you off, but wasn't this in a sci-fi movie? I felt like this information we've heard, like this was what or is a book? What was it? I think not 19.
Are you talking about Idiocracy?
I think it might be. I think it might have been. It's to say it was a book and then they turned it into a movie.
That's where the guy was one of the dumbest people on Earth, and he goes in a time capsule, and then he wakes up 500 years later, and he's one of the smartest people on Earth.
Yes, I think it was that one. It's like wow. It's like it's really frightening when you look at how things are developing today versus science fiction and all those things. It's like, really?
Yeah. By the way, for those listeners, Adam, that is a stupid, funny movie. If you want something stupid funny, that's really funny.
Oh man!
And I don't know if you remember, some major component of this is Gatorade.
I haven't seen that movie in a while, and I don't. Sometimes some things I don't want to even go back to.
Well, that one I actually watched that a couple of weeks ago. I watched it again.
See, now you're gonna make me pull it up and watch it. I'll see if it's on Netflix.
and then the other stupid funny movie is called Kung Fu Hustle.
You know what? First of all, that's a classic, sir. That's a classic right there. That is a classic movie. That's not a stupid movie right there.
Okay, all right. I'll grant you that.
So I know our listeners. I know listeners like, really? We go from ED to now to classic stupid movies. Like, there's two men talking. Calm down, people. Calm down. Or let me ask you this question: how is so you done made me lose my place? Everybody, I'm all messed up. How is testosterone, or I should say, low testosterone related to erectile dysfunction? I don't think I asked you that. I think the first one was low testosterone. Why it's underdiagnosed?
Well, basically, it's what testosterone is what makes you man.
Right.
It basically operates all your systems as a man. So, and one of the things that happens when you have low testosterone is that you are not as responsive to sexual stimuli as you normally would be, and also physiologically affects you. So that if you don't have testosterone, you're not man. You're really not man.
Right.
You may have some of the plumbing, but it doesn't work. And man boobs, everything.
Right, and that has to have a huge psychological effect on the individual themselves as well. I mean, we're talking about, like you said, the physicality, but the psychological effects have to be, what's the word? Just strong, very it's powerful.
Oh, your power and your confidence. Yeah, there's testosterone is probably one of the best. There's several reasons why testosterone optimization is really key, and a lot of it has to do with one. Basically, it's a huge antidepressant. It's a mood elevator. Two, it helps you with mental focus. Your confidence is up. Your muscle mass is up. Your body fat is increased. You have higher sex drive and better erections, and your athletic performance is a lot better. I'll tell you a personal story here that because I've been taking testosterone, and I went to New Zealand in December for 3 weeks with my youngest daughter, and about 8 days into the trip, my wife was going like, "You're really negative because you're normally positive. What's going on?" So I said, "Oh no, it's fine." And so we're talking about it 2 days later, and she asked me, "Did you take your testosterone?" And I go, "No." I said, I didn't want to hassle with the border agent. That can just turn really, even though you have a prescription, that can turn really ugly. And
right.
You got to hire a lawyer in country and all this stuff. And the half-life of testosterone cypionate, which is what I take, which is the injectable form, is about 8 to 10 days. Which would be it showed up immediately in my attitude.
Wow,
which is pretty amazing. Yeah.
Okay.
Amazing. But the other thing is that the lab values, that the normal ranges, what they call the reference ranges. Right. Recently, some of them have been dropped very significantly by 25%. And it was one lab that they went from a high of 1197 to 348, which is a huge range, to 916 and 264. And so that represents a 25%. So now what's called the new normal is actually low testosterone. And that's not the first time that's happened.
Wait. I'm sorry, Orest. You said something that just blew my mind. You're saying that the new normal is low testosterone?
Well, yeah, because they keep on dropping it.
Wow.
So let's say like a few years ago, you went into your doctor and you came in at you came in at 280 according to this woman. Okay, you came in, that put you in the low testosterone range, because in the old prior to that was 348 was the low end. So, but now it's 264.
Wow.
So now it's called normal.
Wow.
Even though you feel like it's called normal. Well, the same is true with a lot of things, because we're averaging out to all the diseased people.
Hope that everybody is enjoying the interview with Orest, the old guy, and our discussion about erectile dysfunction and low testosterone. I would like to take the time out to ask all of you, if you like what you're hearing, please like, share, subscribe to the De La Fit Podcast. We are here to provide information and resource for all of you. Thank you. And now back to our regularly scheduled program.
Man, you know, I know we talked about this last time, but you know, the way you're explaining it, that's one of the reasons why I wanted you back, because of the technical issues that we had. I wanted people to hear this conversation, you know, because just you explaining this to me, it's like, say what? You know, because again, this is not something that is common conversation, especially not for a lot of men. You know, we don't walk around and be like, hey, you know, Orest, how's the testosterone levels? You know, son, they're doing pretty good. You know what I mean? That's not how we function.
And no one's definitely going to ask you, how's your junk working?
Exactly. It's like, I don't need to know that about you, buddy. Like, we don't even like, you know what, for listeners out there, and I know most men understand this, but, you know, we don't even really, or I should say some of us don't even really like being in the same, when we have to use the stalls. That's one of the most uncomfortable, at least for me. Like, you're sitting and you stand in the stalls, and then the next guy comes up to the stall and the urinal and everything. I mean, that commercial that comes on TV where the guy, I forgot what it was, but there's a commercial, I think it's about insurance or something. I don't know how it ties into insurance, but there's two guys, they're in a men's room. One guy goes to the bathroom and another guy walks. There's no other men but these two men, and this one guy walks all the way over to where he is and goes to uses his phone. It's like, no, we like our space. We're like, we're good. Thank you. You know what I mean? So we don't really discuss these type of facts.
Don't be looking over this box.
Yeah, exactly. The information you're giving out to me, it's like, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal because, again, this is not something that is continuously talked about. And then, you know, another thing you said before, you know, is that, you know, erectile dysfunction is starting to show up in younger men, which is frightening. How does it affect the women? You touched on that, but let's get, I should say, our partners. That's what I'll say. That's more appropriate. How does ED affect our partners in a relationship? Because, you know, you touched on it. Let's talk about it just a little bit more.
Sure. Well, I think, you know, outside of the physical aspects that I touched upon about the attractiveness, whether they love, whether somebody's having an affair, or whether they're making porn, when men have erectile dysfunction, they tend to also distance themselves, right? And they tend to stop communicating with their significant other. They tend to say, "Oh no, everything's fine." At some point, because they're so frustrated, they tend to avoid sex. They may be scared because they've had so many problems with it, so they just kind of they kind of like just push it off. And then the other thing is that when you are frustrated, there's a lot of unexplained anger that shows up in a lot of other areas of your life. You know, if you are just generally running around being frustrated and pissed off, that doesn't make you a pleasant person to be around, and so the people around you will also push away from you, significant other. And so ED is a factor in about 20% of divorces.
That's
yeah. So it's a serious issue that, you know, people need to talk about and need to really have a frank conversation with their significant others about.
What are some of the methods that are being used to help cure erectile dysfunction?
Well, there's several new therapies out there. First of all, the ED meds are probably I mean, certainly that's a first line. And maybe I think there's two first lines. There's that, and there's a couple of the regenerative therapies that are out there.
Right.
And then there's more serious EDs And not all the ED is the same. It depends on what the cause is. And if you have what I call a structural issue, by that I mean maybe your prostate has been removed, or your prostate has been damaged, where the nerves have been cut, or you have had some sort of other injury that prevents you from having an erection. Well, then you may be looking at something very different in terms of like a penile implant versus some of this regenerative therapy. Because if you have your prostate removed, the regenerative therapies are more likely than not. Again, I'm not a doctor, but more likely than not, they're not going to work for you, because it's just not. It depends on where you're starting as to where what therapies are out there. And and what I've done, it's okay if I mention this now, son?
Sure, go for it.
Yeah. So what I've done is that as I went through this space, I started to meet different doctors and talk to them. And what I did was I created I interviewed many of them at great length and in great depth. And part of it is because of my background in regenerative medicine, regenerative dentistry, I kind of knew the questions to ask. So I was able to get them to go into great depth, because we didn't do this like during a normal consultation or anything like that, which generally tend to be relatively short. I basically over the internet basically sat down with these doctors and interviewed them on 4 distinct different therapies to treat erectile dysfunction, and I have it available for everyone. It's through they can go to the site called myjunkdoesnotwork.com. I know that's hard. It won't be hard to remember. myjunkdoesnotwork.com, and you can get, actually the first interview you can get for free, and so, but that is a good starting point, because once you sit down and listen to the interviews and understand better what your options are, then when you go in to get a consultation, you have a better idea of the questions to ask and what is more appropriate for you. The other thing is that these doctors do not take insurance.
Wow.
This is all cash or credit card pay. These are not insurance doctors, so your insurance plan is not going to help you out here. And so you need to be prepared for it. So you need to do your research before you start spending your money. Consultation with the doctors would run about $250 to $300 just for the consultation.
Right. That's just what I was going to ask, because I want everybody that's listening to understand what you're actually offering to them, which is you're helping them out. The 4 interviews if they wanted to go to find out about these would cost them over $1,000 to put it all together. Wow. The last conversation that we had into now, there's so much to understand. And first of all, conversations like this for me are very potent, because you start to realize all the things you don't know that you really do need to make yourself aware of, even if you aren't going through it at that time. This is information to make yourself aware of, because it's your body. When you're younger, you essentially think you're bulletproof, and then as you get older, what happens is that ED is not like all of a sudden, like one day you wake up and you have ED. Right.
It's a gradual decline. For most men, it's a gradual decline in their abilities. All of a sudden they start finding out that they're not as hard as they used to be. A little more problems. Maybe they're not able to do some of the positions that they had in the past. Those type of things. So
right.
It's something that happens over a course of time, unless you have a traumatic event, and then that's a whole different ballgame. But for most men, it's kind of a slow, gradual decline, especially if you put on weight and are diabetic. Those type of things are all are a factor.
I actually looked up that specific what you're talking about. I think they say approximately 10% of men per decade of life. So we're talking about, like, the way they break it down. This is from the site uwhealth.org, and they're basically breaking it down like 50% of men in their 50s, then 60% of men in their 60s. So we're talking about a significant loss of function. If I'm understanding it correctly.
Yeah. Well, and that's erectile dysfunction, which is a severe loss of inability to have sex.
Right.
There's another term is called erectile dissatisfaction.
Right.
And that's basically, you're just not as good as you used to be. I can, irregardless of that country western song, I'm as good. How's it going? I'm as good once as I ever used to be.
Yeah. Somebody try.
I'm gonna call bullshit on that one.
I was going to say somebody was trying to make themselves feel good. So there's something else that I definitely want you to talk about, Orest. And you were talking about dealing with porn. I think it needs to be touched on, just because of the fact of we live in a technology age, and things become so disposable. And even our interactions with people have become disposable. And now it's gone into relationships, into our intimacies with individuals. And it was something you were telling me about porn that I think people need to hear.
Yeah. Well, I don't claim to be an expert on porn.
Right.
But I do know a couple of things. Is that there's a number of studies that says that porn desensitizes you to normal sexual stimuli, especially if you consume a lot of it.
Right.
And there's a thing called PIDE, which is porn-induced erectile dysfunction, and this is a problem actually quite often in younger men. And what happens is that they're so exposed to porn at a young age. There's a study in England that said that 50% of boys by age 12 will be exposed to porn on the internet.
True.
Which is, and that's not. I wish that I was not shocked by that number.
I work with ages from as young as 12 to 19. I know it's the truth.
Yeah. And so they become desensitized to normal stimuli. But the other thing that they don't realize is that type of sex is not real.
Very true.
And they have no idea. That those guys in those movies have taken all sorts of mega doses of ED pills. They've shot shit in their dick to keep it hard. They use vacuum pumps off camera. And I thought, what was I watching? I can't remember. It was something on TV, like a news show, or somebody was talking about the porn industry. And they have off camera, they have these women that are called fluffers, which are designed to keep a guy hard while he's off camera.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, where did I hear that? I can't remember where I heard that. It was just researched a couple of days ago. It was like, I think it was on some news show or something.
I'm going to have to Google that.
Fluffers, yeah, fluffers. So all of this is going on, and so they're watching this, and then like when they have sex, it's not like this,
right?
And the girl, is not like this,
right?
And they have this, like, and all of a sudden things aren't just the way it's supposed to be. And next thing you know, like, well, shoot, then they get to, like, this performance anxiety.
Yeah, they've been devoured by the illusion, devoured by the fantasy. I think, I don't know if you remember the story I was telling you, but, we had a young man, same age, 12 years old, came in, needed some help with his homework, pulled up, gave me his phone, so I was trying to teach him how to look up something, and of course, saw some porn link in there. Came up, and the first thing he goes, "Oh, that's not me. This is my brother. He had my phone." I said, first of all, just relax. You know what I mean? Just relax. Nobody is going to put you away for being curious. You know what I mean? But like you said, the inner reaction is so dysfunctional of what it's teaching young people about what intimacy is. I'm not gonna lie, I've looked at porn. I'm sure you've looked at porn. Many of us have looked at pornography and been curious.
Well, never. No.
He's like, no, it wasn't me, sir. Well, I'll stand out there. I'll put it out there about myself. Yes, I have looked at it.
Go ahead, Daryl.
But I mean, the thing of it is, I would say I have had the benefits of having individuals like my father, a good role model, like my mother, like individuals like yourself who will tell the truth. You know what I mean? And say, while I was coming up, like, look, this is not real. And if you continue to digest this, it's just like eating junk food all the time. What you're consuming is going to consume you.
Yeah. The other chilling factor is that there was a Department of Defense study looking at violence against women in the military.
Right.
And one of the things they found was that porn consumed by men was a significant factor in making them more violent. Yeah, that was like I had not heard that. I saw that and I thought, oh my God, that's kind of a scary thing, because you can imagine if you're overseas and there's not a lot to do, so they're on porn.
I've watched some of former porn stars and even recent porn stars give interviews talking about the industry, as well as some of their own personal interactions and understanding how it has changed them in their perception of intimacy and interaction with one another within the humans. And all I can say is that we as human beings have to continue to do things like we're doing now, have these conversations and deal with the truth. And the truth of it is that what was that saying? All that glitters is not gold.
Yeah.
And that's just the plain truth. And it's now more important more than ever, because it's the rate that things are consumed mentally as well as physically that they're potentially making us dysfunctional. And I'm not. This is nothing against anybody's industry. I'm just saying that if you overconsume anything, moderation is always key. That was the most important thing. Orest, where can people contact you? I know you already talked about your first website. Please plug them both. Let people know where they can find you and ask you questions and find this information.
My other site is oldguytalks.com.
I love that site. I love it.
Oldguytalks.com, and we spend a lot of time on anti-aging. We talk about cigars, we talk about scotch, a little bit about politics, and so there's a lot of stuff on there that people go to, and it's a men's lifestyle, basically helping older guys create kick-ass lives for themselves and those that they love.
And we
talk a lot about and things like that.
And they can reach you and ask you questions and look at the information that you have there, which is good information, people. For everyone that's listening, it's good, solid information. Orest is taking you through his own journey.
Yeah. Well, I've had the opportunity. I've interviewed lots of. I've had an opportunity to interview lots of experts in fields. I had a gentleman by the name of Dom DiGustino, and he's the developer. He's a PhD down at the University of South Florida. He's the developer of the ketogenics formula for exogenous ketone, basically to get your body into ketosis by taking some supplements. Right. And he's been on like Tim Ferriss like about 5 or 6 times, and he's been on Joe Rogan, all the big name people. And so I was fortunate to interview him at a great length. There's other interviews there that are helpful, such as the sex, drugs, mind, body tab. Those are more of the lifestyle stuff.
Orest, I said it before, I'm gonna say it again. I thank you so much for coming on to the podcast and taking your time with us and your energy. And everybody out there listening, I tell you, do not sleep on this man. I know his when you hear the name, I love the name now. I love the name because it's almost like it catches you like a left hook. You're like, oh, all right, Orest the old guy, and then you're hit, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute. No, this guy is very youthful, and I'm being very serious, and I'm very glad to have had you on the De La Fit podcast, sir.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate being a guest on your program, and so I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Oh, definitely, sir. Oh, this is gonna take place again, because I'm sure a lot of our listeners they're gonna hear the information, they're gonna become curious, and also this is information that I'm sure can help many people out there, which is what we're about.
I'm just gonna mention again my site myjunkdoesnotwork.com. It is just a lot of men are embarrassed.
Right.
Go into talk to their doctor. They're not going to talk to they're not going to talk to that guy. And this is an opportunity to really get the details in the privacy of your home. Yeah, no one has to know you're looking. You're just there by yourself, and you can do this peacefully with no risk of embarrassment, and just take your time and just to kind of go through the stuff.
Exactly. The conversation is one of the first, in my opinion, one of the first steps. If you talk about it enough and, you have the information in front of you, research, eventually, it's going to make you do something. So please take advantage of this. Take advantage of the fact that there are individuals like Orest out there who are taking you through their journey and doing the work so that you don't necessarily have to do all of it yourself. And it's great work. Orest, thank you again.
Thank you, and you have a great rest of the day.
So I'd like to thank Orest, the old guy, for coming on to the De La Fit podcast and sharing with us his journey, his information, and just the entire story, which brought him from where he was to where he is now. Also, I would like to restate that the website that Orest created, which is myjunkdoesnotwork.com. Previously, I said my junk doesn't work. It is not doesn't. It's myjunkdoesnotwork.com. Check out the website. Orest has gathered interviews and information from many specialists in the field of erectile dysfunction and low testosterone study. He has gathered all this information. The expense that it would cost for any of us to sit down with these specialists would be very costly. And as Orest said in the interview, insurance does not cover it. But he has gathered this information for you. And you can go to the website and you can take it all in the privacy and comfort of your own home and look at it and determine the type of questions that if you do think or find out you have to speak to a specialist, now you can formulate educated questions to ask. So big shout out and thanks to Orest for coming on to the podcast. We're going to try to get him back again. On another note, this is our 50th episode. I am so proud. I am so happy that something that took place in the backyard of my house in Philadelphia is now on to 50 episodes. Wow. I never would have thought this would have taken place. I am so proud, I am so happy, and I'm humble that we have listeners and followers who are sticking by us and give us tons of feedback and choose to spend time and energy listening to me and these wonderful people who come here to give information because they have experienced or they have went through things or they want to give the world the benefit of their knowledge. That's a beautiful thing, and I'm so thankful to all of you out there who continue to rock with us and ride with us, and I hope you will continue as we continue to go forward and progress for 50, 100, and way more episodes, getting better and better as we continue. As always, if you have any questions, topics you would like us to entertain and bring to light, to talk about, to bring specialists on to talk about, please contact us at delafit13@gmail.com, or you can contact us at our website, which is www.delafitpodcast.com. We are also on Facebook at De La Fit Podcast, and we are on Instagram at DE_LA_Fit Podcast. That's right. We are on the web. We are also can be found on any of the platforms out there. That's from iHeartMedia all the way down to SoundCloud.com. Any podcast platform we have virtually gotten to. So, as always, I would like to urge and remind all of you out there to love yourself. If you properly love yourself, you will love each other. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Love yourself. And I know you will love others. Peace.
You've been listening to the DelaFit Podcast. Ta-ta for now.